What does it mean to create structure in the conversation that you have in the role play during the OET speaking exam? What does it mean in the exam criteria when OET talk about developing the conversation in a sequential or logical way? And no, we're not talking about a well-known science fiction character. Check out today's video, OET Speaking Test, Avoid Chaos, Create a Plan. Hi, my name is Richard Foster. I'm a trainer and assessor for Benchmark Education Solutions. In this video, we're going to talk about how to max out your score by creating a structure to the conversation that you have within that 5-minute role play in the OET speaking exam. We're going to help you use a skill called signposting to work your way through or sequence the interview in a purposeful and logical way. And then in doing so, you'll be able to gain those extra marks for the best results. So let me take you over to my computer and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's get started. Remember, this is the first half of a kind of a two-stage process. So the first part is create the plan, and it is literally something like saying to the patient, well, Richard, what I would like to do today is I'd like to examine Lucy, if that's okay. I then may have some more questions, and then we'll talk about the treatment plan. How does that sound? Do you see, you've created a very simple plan for the conversation, and it's quite appropriate that you do this. It's not unusual for people to do this as part of a presentation, for example. They'll often start by telling the audience what they're going to do, and then they'll proceed to do it. And often what they'll do is, at the end of the conversation, they'll review what they've done, and it simply falls into tell them what you're going to do, tell them when you're doing it, and tell them what you've done. But in this case, it's really simple. So let me repeat that. You might say to the patient in this case, okay, Richard, I think what I'd like to do today, thanks for telling me the information, by the way. What I'd like to do is I'd like to examine Lucy, if that's okay. Then I may have some more questions, and then we'll talk about the treatment plan. How does that sound? Do you see? It's really straightforward. Now, one of the other benefits to creating a plan, creating a structure in that way is actually you're making your job of proceeding through the exam conversation with the patient that much easier, because now you know exactly how that conversation is going to progress. So actually you're doing yourself a big favour in creating a plan. Now, the second part of it, I mentioned that there are two halves to that. All you then have to do is use signposting to indicate changes in that plan. So, for example, you might, having laid down the plan, it's going to be an examination followed by more questions, followed by the treatment plan. You may now say, okay, Richard, I'd like to start by doing that examination, if that's okay. You've signposted or indicated the direction you're about to go in the conversation and the communication with the patient. You're now going to do an examination. Now you complete the examination and you might say something like, okay, Richard, thank you for that. I have a few more questions, if that's okay. Would that be all right if I ask you a few more questions? Sure, doctor. Now you've strongly indicated a change in direction from the examination, and now you're moving on to part 2 in that plan, the questions. And now, having finished the questions, you might then say, okay, Richard, let's talk about the treatment plan. Now, of course, during this conversation, you are having during these stages of signposting, you're having a conversation with the patient. You're talking about the diagnosis. You're talking about the treatment and why you've come to that diagnosis. But you've gone through a plan. Signposting is simply a method of indicating a change in direction in the conversation. So do you see the benefit of doing that? So right at the beginning, the patient, you've done the introductions and you've done the greetings. You've now asked the patient to explain their symptoms, and now, having done some echoing to make sure that your understanding is correct, you may now say something like, okay, Richard, what I'd like to do today is, and then you go and tell them what you're planning to do during the rest of the conversation. It really is straightforward. Now, it's quite okay to use signposting throughout the conversation, even if you haven't used that signposting as part of a pre-existing plan. You might simply say something like, Richard, could you, I'd like to discuss with you your medical history first, if that's okay. Now, that may not have been part of the original plan, but it may be that you found out more information through questioning the patient that you now need to change direction a few more times. Signposting is not just limited to being used to direct the person through that original plan that you created, so you can continue to use it throughout. It's quite straightforward. You'll notice also that it doesn't take much to create the plan. You really don't need to make it complicated. It doesn't need to be more than 3 steps. I mean, you can make it 4 if you prefer, but it could be as few as 2 steps. It could be simply, in this case, you might say something like, okay, Richard, I'd like to examine Lucy, and then we'll talk about the treatment plan. How does that sound? Do you see the point? It really does not need to be complicated. That really sums up the requirements to proceed through the examination or through the conversation in a logical way, in a progressive or sequential way. I hope that really makes sense to you. So it's been nice speaking with you today again. I hope this helps. As you know, we really are trying to put together a series of videos that give you some in-depth guidance as to how to manage your approach to the OET speaking exam. Now, what I would say, and I've said this in previous videos, is there's nothing quite like having a one-to-one conversation. We will try our best to give you the information you require in these videos, but there is nothing quite like having a one-to-one where we offer you a mock test, where I can take you through a mock test under exam conditions, but with the added bonus of giving you personalized, specific feedback to help you individually with the things you may need to work on for the exam. I also would ask, please, that you just take a moment, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done already, and smash that like button as well. But please, particularly, can we ask that you hit the notification bell and include all items, and that way you'll always be informed of every time we release a new video. So again, I hope that helps today. Next time we're going to talk about gathering more marks by gathering information. So I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Bye for now.